Okay, so finally an episode of American Horror Story Cult that I actually thoroughly enjoyed from the top to the bottom. I'm going to go with That Happened because the episode focused on the best character in the show this season, which is Kai, played by Evan Peters. It was a breath of fresh air for this season because we've been spending it with Sarah Paulson and Alison Pill in their house and just seeing Sarah Paulson run around constantly screaming and losing her mind. So this was nice because it finally gave the show much needed depth and much needed explanation and going in the past. It felt a lot like season 1 of American Horror Story, where now it's going backwards and showing us how everything began. And that's always exciting, and that's American Horror Story at its best. Now, everyone's theories about everyone basically being in on this whole clown thing and this uprising and this anarchy and this cult is coming true. This episode was really well done because it showed Evan Peters' character Kai recruiting each person one by one, and it was broken up into 3 parts. The first being Billy Eichner's character, the gay personal trainer, and I thought it was really cool how they did that story where it was clean up on aisle 4, which meant he had to go clean the jizz in the steam room, which I thought was hysterical because there's always weird stuff like that going on in a men's locker room, and I thought that was a hysterical thing and some sort of humiliating thing they could have come up with that was very funny and also believable and also convincing enough to make you want to kill some guy with the own weights he's lifting, which was an awesome way to murder someone. I thought that was cool. Very unique how they did that. Like, that's one of the biggest fears. Look, I obviously don't bench, look at me, but when I have tried benching, I've always had the fear of it just falling on me. Now imagine just someone pushing it onto you to your death. Terrifying. So props for the creativity there. Now Beverly, the news reporter, who we didn't think much of before this episode, has a huge part in this, and it's actually a really good political stance they got going there because it's showing how important the media is and how Kai knows that for his ulterior motives and how much of an engine that is. And it's so cool how they actually made this reporter story with a competing reporter, which is always kind of the news story, but it really worked here. And it was cool they brought back Emma Roberts. She played the perfect spoiled news reporter you hate and in it for all the wrong reasons. And that death right there with the clowns coming and getting her was brutal. And it was on camera and she had the puppy. They didn't kill the puppy, thank God. That was some awesome horror in that scene, and it was perfect pacing, too. They spent just the amount of right time on each character's recruitment from Kai. And then the big twist was we find out Blondie, a.k.a. Alison Pill, a.k.a. Sarah Paulson's wife, was recruited by Winter the nanny, and that she's not as innocent as she seems. And it still leaves up. Like, look, we find out Winter is involved with Kai, and that they're probably sleeping together, but you don't know how much Alison Pill even, or if she even knows who Kai is. So her story's more on to Winter is a main recruit of Kai and is brainwashing Alison Pill in a way and getting the worst out in her. So it's going to be interesting how that goes and how we now know that Alison Pill never told Sarah Paulson that she already knew the babysitter and what her endgame is here. So it's just more and more showing Sarah Paulson is not crazy and that everyone is kind of losing their shit and all being influenced by Kai. And Kai's preying on everybody's fear and anger and oppression. He is an interesting character because towards both sides, including that very misogynist man who assaulted Alison Pill, who they tied up in the basement and he sawed his own arm off, like the Saw movie, which is kind of nutty. He even recruits him. He's recruiting all sides, and he's just basically saying the counter argument to each side, and he's able to play each card, and he's really at the deepest of trying to be that realistic character of how screwed up things are in the world on both sides. And it's smart now. The show's making more sense that they would use a character like this in this kind of political climate where both sides are constantly fighting, where he's kind of just the super realist, but almost too extreme realist, and in a very dark mindset. We've seen that character before in like True Detective, Fargo, where there's always those characters that are like speaking truth people just don't want to hear. It's dark, it's very animalistic, and he's that perfect character. Evan Peters plays it perfectly. So it's an interesting door they're opening here and what his endgame, obviously, is trying to get power and starting with the city council. And he's basically just out for full control and full anarchy. So we'll see where that goes. I really enjoyed this episode. I haven't been enjoying the season, but this episode I did like. I think this episode was so important. It opened the door to better episodes now and a stronger story and an actual story. So props to this episode. I'm going to give it a solid 8. Wasn't amazing, but that's probably due to the character build-up in the other episodes. But this was really good, and this is a step in the right direction. I really enjoyed this. Please comment below with your thoughts on the episode. I'm curious what everyone thinks. I respond to everybody. Let me know what you thought. If you liked it, didn't like it, please subscribe. Keep coming back to see my reviews. I appreciate every single one of you. I also do movie reviews, trailer reactions, celebrity interviews, much more, follow me at SteveVarley1 on Twitter and Instagram. Keep coming back.